always say Ukraine is very grateful, really, really sincerely grateful to everything that we get in form of help from our European partners. But this stuff with the frozen assets, that's just beginning to be, almost disgraceful.
The Kremlin said it was no closer to a breakthrough after 5 hours of talks with President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. The Americans were kept waiting for several hours to see Putin, which is, of course, the thing he tends to do. Before the meeting, Putin said Trump was ready to fight a war with Europe. Let's get a view from Yuriy Sak in Kyiv. He's a former advisor to the Minister of Defence of Ukraine, regularly tries to make sense of things for us on this programme. Yuriy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Stig.
I bet you're not surprised that nothing solid has emerged out of these talks.
No, because I think a few days ago when we spoke with you about these talks, I was very skeptical. I mean, even though I said that the Ukrainian side will do everything we can and have to treat this peace process in good faith and invest as much as we can to make this work. But of course, when we spoke last time, there was an air raid siren on. There were civilians killed in Ukrainian cities, and nothing was indicating that Russia was taking it seriously. And yesterday we had the confirmation of this because, the talks ended in nothing. All these platitudes about the talks being productive and constructive, that's nothing because the key points, the key sticking points have been discussed and no compromise was reached, which was to be expected.
So is it fair to say, the Times is writing this as effectively Putin has rejected the idea of a peace deal that was put forward by the Europeans, the Ukrainians and the Americans? Is that fair? Do you think he's not going to go along with that?
Well, we can now try to rationalize and find excuses for why this hasn't been achieved. But look, Putin doesn't want peace. He wants war. Putin doesn't want to find any solutions to the problems that we're facing. He wants to grab all of Ukraine. He wants to spread his sphere of influence. He wants to, cement his legacy as somebody who's been able to reinstate the Russian Empire. So that's, for as long as we stick to this understanding of Russia's motives, we stand a chance to build a proper peace, which means that, actually there's a positive side in the fact that these talks have not led to nothing, because we are one step closer to everybody, including the White House, realizing that Russia is not going to work. They're not going to negotiate.
Do you think that Putin wants to outlast Trump or outlast Trump's interest? Because at a certain point, he's not going to be bothered about this. He'll say, I've put together a deal. It's not possible. I'll go and think about other things.
Well, I'm sure that thought must have crossed Putin's mind before, right? So he probably thought, well, I'll play Trump along and get my way. If I don't, I'll wait for another 2 years. He's got people to spare. They don't care. They can kill people by the hundreds of thousands. They have economic partners, unfortunately, such as China, India, who are buying their oil. And, of course, they have the indecision of, for example, even the European Union. Because, look, we are stuck in these discussions about the frozen assets for more than, a year now. This is a decision that European partners can make. What's so difficult to understand? And this will be much more efficient in terms of bringing the peace closer.
Why is that? Why are they not just doing that? Because they've seized this money. They've said they've seized it because it's immoral. They say that Russia is the illegal invader. Why do you think it's not happening?
Well, there are two main factors why this is not happening. Factor number one, Belgium, who is the holder of the brunt, the major part of these assets, is something in the area of like 350 billion EU. Don't quote me on that, but it's hundreds of billions.
I think it's about 400 billion euros, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, about 400 billion. So Belgium, factor number one, Belgium is afraid that if they agree to release those funds and transfer them to Ukraine for our reconstruction, they will be held accountable. So that money will be a burden on them when the war is over. And point number two is, of course, that many European countries also fear, and that's the wrong kind of fear to have in this kind of war. But they fear that this will set a precedent, and there will be an outflow of investments and the money that is deposited in the European banks, because other tyrants will see that there is no guarantee for their
Yeah.
money in banks.
Yeah, and whether they'll ever be able to overcome those
That's
concerns.
actually Stig, I apologize, but I always say that Ukraine is very grateful, really, really sincerely grateful to everything that we get in form of help from our European partners. But this stuff with the frozen assets, that's just beginning to be, almost disgraceful.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting you say that because we've been dancing around it for a bit, haven't we? And I think that's now becoming just your point is very well taken. Do you trust Witkoff and Kushner? I mean, does it even matter what they do or think? Because Putin is Putin.
I think Witkoff and Kushner, they are the messengers. They are not the decision takers. Yeah. They are people who can afford to actually go to Kremlin and sit down and listen to the history lessons from the indicted war criminal Putin for hours, and then leave with nothing. But they're not strategists. They're not people who they are facilitators of this peace process. And look, if at this stage it takes these kind of people to do this, to move the needle, then fine. But where's the results?
Yeah. Has the needle been moved? Just finally, where does this end, Yuri? I mean, last time we spoke, I said, in a year's time, will you still be fighting? You said yes.
Well, and since last time, Stig, we just heard that Putin has signed a new budget law into action for 2026. And guess what? 40% of their budget will be dedicated to military expenditures. Now, that means they're prepared to fight for another year minimum. That means that, what we discussed last time is unfortunately probably true. We are looking ahead, with little optimism because, Russia is not going to put their guns down, and it'll just continue.
Yeah, it's a sad note to leave it on, but we'll keep coming back to you as we keep looking for ways that this gets to some sort of conclusion. We're definitely not there yet, it's fair to say. Good to speak to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. That's Yuriy Sak there in Kyiv. He's a former advisor to the Minister of Defence of Ukraine, and we've spoken to him on this station. Even before you joined this programme, Kate, you'd have spoken to him for, what is it now, 3 years, whatever it is. And his tone has gradually got more and more frustrated and hardened, and you can sort of hear it in his voice, can't you?
Well, I think the point about the frozen assets is a really interesting one, and it's being discussed by other European leaders now quite seriously. And there is this the blockage is this issue of legal responsibility. And the real fear around, if Belgium were to release those assets, which there is pressure to do, who would be legally responsible and what would the implications be of doing that? And I think that's where this has fallen down. But there is now a real conversation, particularly among the defence community, of this is starting to look like Europe is dragging its feet and it's not backing up what it's saying with actual action.